Frederick and Laurie Samitaur Smith.
I was raised in Los Angeles. At 17 years old, I decided to leave. I arrived in Paris with $600 in my pocket, and I stayed 8 years. I ended up being a journalist, and I won an award for young playwrights in my mid-20s. I sold a treatment to a producer here in Los Angeles, and I was shocked out of my mind. In 1970, I got a check for $125,000, and boy, that was a lot of money. And it was nothing compared to the moment that I met my wife.
Well, I think what Frederick's getting at is we both came to urban redevelopment through the back door. I came from the arts. He was a writer, a serious writer and a journalist.
When I was a journalist in Paris, I covered the May-June riots in 1968. And the CRS were out in the streets. And I saw them beating a young French girl. And they were beating her pretty badly, so I got my 3 photographers up there. I just said, take photos of the guy. And I thought this was really exciting. And then I realized the more photos he took, the more he hit her. And eventually he killed her.
This was a crisis realization for Frederick. His idea, his thought, his logic was, if we as newsmen photograph these brutes beating this young, she was like a young college girl, completely innocent, they'll stop because they'll be afraid to be on camera. It was the opposite. And so he realized he needed to come home and try to figure out where his life was heading. When he got home, guess what? 1992, the LA riots, and he saw the exact same type of thing going on. The less privileged classes revolting because they felt so desperate that they had no way out. And then we came to the night of 1,000 fires.
And what happened during that time, for those of you that do not know it, is that the people went rampaging through the neighborhoods, and they set about 1,000 fires. And basically, sadly enough, all of the buildings just burned. Until people had economic parity, they weren't going to be able to get out of poverty. And so what I decided to do, many years later, by the way, what I decided to do was try to do a work that would give people in lower income areas some economic parity.
Malcolm X said that to give $4,500 in a welfare check to a poor person, it took $45,000 to pass through the government, the federal bureaucracy. What they did was take away the self-respect and the independence of an individual. And what he preached was create jobs. And if you create jobs, then people who are wanting will earn money on their own and be able to acquire whatever they want or need. And that was something that Frederick never forgot. And so we decided, okay, our main objective here is going to be job creation.
Create a community, create jobs, use art and architecture to do it. When we originally came into this area, it's sort of interesting. The houses sold for about $50,000 to $65,000. The average family of 4 was making $22,000 a year. Downtown Culver City at the time when we started was basically a place where 2-day-old bread was sold, and there was a lot of old clothing stores here.
We came up with the theory that we needed to do something visual that would make a major, strong statement like a punch in the gut. And that was contemporary architecture, avant-garde, experimental, something that would stop people as they drove down the street so that they would recognize the change was coming to the neighborhood. About a dozen years ago, the state of California and the city of Los Angeles estimated that we had created at that time about 8,500 jobs.
We encourage risk. We have 75 tenants. We have 21 billion-dollar companies, about 35 startups, and the rest are in between. The idea is that we want to engender genius in our neighborhood and in our community.
Culver City was the first city in the nation to finally accept architecture as one of the accepted art forms if one could prove that the architect was a qualified artist.
We won 5 awards for the best building in the United States. We have 2 awards for the European Union for the best use of design, and published in approximately 600 magazines.
Its purpose is to project art and culture into the neighborhood, free of charge to the passers-by.
If you go into any museum in the world and you look at artwork, whether it's by David or it's by Picasso or it's by Braque, the gallery versus the individual painting gets lost. So the theory that I had was that if we did really important contemporary architecture, we would in fact be separated from everybody else. And the fact that the area was basically abandoned also allowed us to get more property and experiment on a much larger level. Thank you very much.